My girlfriend, a professor, cheated on me with her grad student. She was 3 months pregnant. Through her tears, she tried to explain it was a one-time mistake, that they'd both had too much to drink at an end-of-semester party. Honey, you're the only one I love. He's the one who's obsessed with me. I swear. I'll handle it. I chose to forgive her. But when I came home early from a business trip, I found him in my lab. The student was hugging her from behind, his hand resting on her stomach. Dr. Reed, he murmured, feel that? The baby's kicking again. You think he knows I'm a better man than your boyfriend? When my girlfriend, Evelyn, saw me, she shoved him away, then instinctively stepped in front of him. Julian, he has his whole future ahead of him. It was my fault I wasn't strong enough. I have to do right by him. Then she delivered the final blow. I'll let you have the nature paper as a parting gift. Just don't make things difficult for him, okay? I stared at her for a long moment, and then I smiled. Okay. I deleted every photo of us together and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Zoe, I just got dumped. I'm thinking of getting married. Is a #1 spot for your top fans still open? On the other end of the line, the voice of my college friend, now one of the biggest streamers on Twitch, was a choked mix of tears and pure joy. Julian, I'm ending the stream right now. Wait for me. My #1 spot was always reserved for you. After I hung up, the air in the lab still smelled of Evelyn's familiar perfume, now mingled with the cheap, sweaty scent of the grad student, Caleb. The combination turned my stomach. I didn't leave right away. Instead, I walked over to my workstation, opened my laptop, and dragged an encrypted folder labeled JC Core Data onto my personal flash drive. The progress bar crept across the screen, measuring out the slow death of my love. Evelyn chased after me, tears still streaming down her face. Julian, do you have to be like this? I already said the paper is yours. I won't fight you for it. I pulled the flash drive out and slipped it into my pocket, my movements sharp and precise. It was always mine. It's not a gift from you. What's that supposed to mean? That paper was the product of our combined effort, she shot back, her voice rising as if volume could prove her innocence. I finally looked her straight in the eye and stated a simple fact. Evelyn, the core data, the theoretical model, the entire experimental design, that was all me. You wrote the introduction and the conclusion, and you put your name down as first author. The color drained from her face. Don't you dare make baseless accusations. You know damn well if I am or not. I was done arguing. I walked out and sat on a metal bench in the hallway. The cold seeped through my pants, a welcome shock that helped clear my head. I opened my phone's photo gallery and, starting with our first picture from college, began deleting. Graduation photos, vacation shots, candlelit anniversary dinners. Every tap of the delete button felt like carving a piece of rotten flesh from my heart. It hurt, but it was necessary. Caleb peeked out of the lab, seeing Evelyn standing there, devastated, and me sitting there cold and detached. He swaggered over and wrapped an arm around her shoulders, shooting me a defiant look. Dr. Reed, don't waste your energy on a loser like him. It's not worth upsetting the baby over a man who can't even hold onto his own woman. Evelyn didn't push him away. She leaned into his embrace, her shoulders shaking with sobs. That single image extinguished the last flicker of pathetic hope in my heart. Just then, the screech of tires tore through the campus quiet. A hot pink Porsche in 911 drifted expertly into a parking spot in front of the science building. The door flew open. A girl in a cat ear made costume jumped out, her skirt fluttering. Her dramatic stage makeup was still on, with glittery, theatrical teardrop gems at the corners of her eyes mixing with real, fresh tear tracks. Zoe Sullivan, oblivious to the stunned stares of everyone around her, she launched herself toward me like a pink cannonball. She stopped right in front of me, chest heaving, wanting to speak but afraid of saying the wrong thing. Her wide eyes were filled with a mixture of anxiety and heartache for me. Looking at her, at this ridiculous, out-of-place outfit in the sterile academic environment, the crushing pressure of the last few days finally found a release. I laughed. Then I stood up. Zoe flinched, taking half a step back. She thought I was going to send her away, and the light in her eyes dimmed. Instead, I closed the distance and wrapped my arms around her, pulling her into a tight, desperate hug. Her soft, warm body instantly filled the void that had opened up inside me. "Zoe, I think I've lost everything," I whispered, my voice raspy and broken. Her body went rigid for a second. Then she hugged me back even harder, as if trying to merge her very being into mine. "Julian, you still have me. You will always have me." I leaned in and, in a voice only she could hear, asked the craziest question of my life. "You got your driver's license with you?" "Huh. We're going to City Hall tomorrow." Zoe's brain shut down for 3 solid seconds. Then, an overwhelming wave of joy washed over her. She nodded furiously against my chest, her happy tears soaking my shirt. "Edo, I always have it with me." The next day, outside the county clerk's office, Zoe was clutching our marriage certificate, a goofy grin plastered on her face. She looked like a kid who'd just been given the keys to a candy factory. The sunlight seemed to make her glow. I took her phone, found a perfect angle, and snapped a picture of her holding up the certificate. Her smile in the photo was pure, unadulterated bliss. A wave of warmth spread through my chest. I took a similar photo with my own phone. Then, right in front of her, I opened Instagram, which I almost never used, and posted the picture. I didn't add a caption, but I set the post visibility to a custom list. Evelyn and all of our mutual friends in the academic world. Zoe nervously tugged on my sleeve. "Julian, isn't this a little fast? What will they?" I put my phone away and gently ruffled her hair. "Not fast enough. This is an announcement, not a negotiation." The announcement was, of course, for Evelyn. Sure enough, not 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Evelyn's voice, shrill and sharp, shot through the speaker. "Julian, what the hell is this? What is the meaning of this post? Are you trying to get back at me?" I put her on speakerphone. Zoe heard the furious questions and bit her lip, watching me anxiously. My tone was as calm as if I were discussing the weather. "Dr. Reed, we're broken up. My marriage has nothing to do with you." A contemptuous laugh echoed from the phone. "Marriage? To a streamer? Julian, you've really hit rock bottom. You're throwing your life away just to spite me. You've lost it. To get revenge on me. You found some trashy woman who gets paid to be looked at. A streamer?" I let out a soft chuckle, a genuine note of amusement in my voice. "My life is just getting started. And a word of advice, don't call this number again." I paused, letting each word land with precision. "My wife gets jealous." With that, I hung up, blocked her number, and deleted her contact. A clean sweep. Beside me, Zoe's eyes were red, but her lips were curled into a smile she couldn't contain. I reached out and gently wiped a tear from the corner of her eye with my thumb. "From now on, you're Mrs. Croft." More tears streamed down her face, but she nodded emphatically. "Okay." I took her back to my condo, the home I had shared with Evelyn for 3 years. When I opened the door, a pair of her stylish heels were still sitting by the entrance. Zoe's bright expression flickered for a second. I pretended not to notice her change in mood or the shoes. I walked to the hall closet, pulled out a massive black trash bag, and returned to the entryway. I picked up the heels and dropped them into the bag. Then I went into the bedroom, opened the closet, and swept all of Evelyn's clothes, purses, and accessories in the bag. The lotions and perfumes on the vanity, the books and notes in the study. Every single item that held a trace of her was unceremoniously dumped. I was methodical, efficient, without a moment's hesitation. The entire time, Zoe just stood in the living room, watching me in silence. I hauled 2 bulging trash bags in front of her. "All cleaned out," I said, my tone light. "You can put your things wherever you want." Zoe's eyes lit up. She whipped out her phone and excitedly directed the moving company she'd already called. They brought up boxes overflowing with her streaming equipment, cosplay outfits, and an entire menagerie of stuffed animals and figurines. The once minimalist, sterile condo was instantly filled with splashes of pink and pop culture. It was chaotic, but it felt alive. For the first time, it felt like a home. 3 that night, I was in my home office, replying to an email from the Max Planck Institute in Germany, when the bathroom door opened. Zoe walked in wearing a black silk slip I'd never seen before, carrying a glass of milk. The delicate fabric clung to her curves. She came to my side and deliberately bent over to place the glass on my desk, giving me an unobstructed view of the plunging neckline. Her voice was sweet and soft, with a hint of practiced charm. Still working, Julian? Want me to help you relax? My gaze shifted from the computer screen to her. I felt my throat tighten. Leaning back in my chair, I looked at her amused. And how would you do that? A blush spread across Zoe's cheeks. She clearly hadn't expected me to call her bluff so directly. Steeling herself, she mumbled, well, my top donors on Twitch always say, my dancing is really good. It can relieve fatigue. Is that so? I took off my gold-rimmed glasses and set them on the desk. Without the lenses, my gaze felt more intense, more direct. A playful smile touched my lips. Your number one fan has never seen a private show. Is now a good time? My voice was low and resonant. Zoe looked like her knees were about to give out. Whatever courage she had mustered evaporated into thin air. I think I'll go reheat your milk, she stammered before practically fleeing the room. Watching her hurried escape, I let out a low chuckle. The dark clouds that had been hanging over me felt like they were finally starting to part, chased away by this delightful, ridiculous woman. The next day, after finding her calls and texts wouldn't go through, Evelyn showed up at my condo building. The front desk security guard called me. Mr. Croft, there's a Ms. Reed here who insists on coming up. She says she's family. I walked to the window and looked down at the woman in a trench coat, her face drawn and tired. My expression was ice. I have no family by that name. Tell her to leave. A few minutes later, Zoe's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She glanced at it, her expression changing, and handed the phone to me. This is Zoe, right? I'm Julian's girlfriend, Evelyn. You need to get a little self-awareness and stay away from him. He's just acting out of spite. A woman like you could never be worthy of him. We have years of history. You think some streamer who gets views by showing off her body can compete with that? Get lost before you embarrass yourself. I read the texts, my face a blank mask, and used Zoe's phone to dial the number. Evelyn answered immediately, her voice eager. Julian? I knew you'd call me. Are you having second thoughts? Dr. Reed. My voice was devoid of any warmth. It seems you didn't understand me yesterday. You have 10 minutes to get out of my sight. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen. And I promise you will regret it. Julian, are you threatening me? The clock is ticking. I hung up. Zoe looked at me, worried. Julian, do you think she'll? I patted her hand reassuringly. Don't worry. She values her reputation more than anything. Sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, the figure below was gone. I knew she wouldn't risk it. She was terrified I'd expose her and Caleb to the university. But she had no idea. This was just the beginning. The punishment I had in mind for her was far from over. For a week later, the nation's most prestigious conference for biological sciences was held in Chicago. According to the original plan, Evelyn and I were scheduled to represent our research group and present our findings together. At the registration desk, I stood in a tailored black suit. On my arm was Zoe, dressed to the nines. She had chosen a stunning, champagne-colored off-the-shoulder gown. Her hair was swept up in an elegant chignon, and her makeup was flawless, accentuating her natural beauty while giving her an air of sophisticated grace. Her arrival immediately turned heads. Whispers rippled through the crowd of academics. Is that Julian Croft? Who is he with? Some actress. She's gorgeous. So much class. Didn't Croft have a new girlfriend? I thought he was with Dr. Reed from his university. At that moment, Evelyn and Caleb arrived. When they saw me with Zoe, their faces turned to stone. Evelyn's eyes were locked on me, burning with a mix of jealousy, fury, and disbelief. Caleb, arrogant and impulsive, strode right up to us. He looked Zoe up and down, his tone dripping with condescending malice. Well, Dr. Croft, change your taste, have we? Since when did serious academics start running with this kind of crowd? His voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. This kind of crowd? Before I could respond, Zoe detached her arm from mine and stepped forward, a dazzling smile on her face. Her smile was sweet, but her words were razor-sharp. Excuse me, but you should really watch your mouth. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Zoe Sullivan, Julian's legal wife. She flashed the diamond ring on her finger, the one I'd bought her the day before. My husband is a world-class scientist, and I am his wife. I believe that's called a power couple. Her gaze then shifted, sweeping over Caleb and a now pale Evelyn. Unlike some people, who are engaged in an inappropriate student-faculty relationship. An academic scandal. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Reed? You. Evelyn was trembling with rage. Zoe, you've gone too far. Zoe blinked, her expression one of pure innocence. Have I, Dr. Reed? I'm simply stating the facts. Oh, and I almost forgot to congratulate you. I heard you and your student are expecting. How touching. Such dedication to science. Someone nearby let out a snort of laughter. The color of Evelyn and Caleb's faces shifted from red to white and back again. The world of academia is small. Gossip travels fast. Many people knew Evelyn was pregnant, but the identity of the father was still a matter of speculation. With one swift move, Zoe had just announced it to the entire conference. An older professor who knew our group hurried over to mediate. He pulled me aside, his curiosity getting the better of him. Julian, he whispered, what on earth is going on? And your new wife? What does she do? She's certainly got a sharp tongue. I watched Zoe, who was now chatting amiably with a female scholar across the room, my eyes filled with adoration. I smiled faintly. She does what she loves, and that makes her happy. My words, spoken calmly, drifted directly into Evelyn's ears. She shuddered, her face turning even paler. She had always believed that I loved her for her academic halo, her status as a brilliant researcher. She never imagined that one day I would speak about another woman, a streamer she looked down on, with such unreserved affection. For her, it was more humiliating than a public slap in the face. During the presentation session, it was our group's turn. Evelyn took a deep breath and walked onto the stage, trying to project confidence. But her composure was shot. She stumbled over her words and lost her train of thought multiple times. When it was my turn, I didn't use the prepared slideshow. I brought a different one. In 15 minutes, I clearly and concisely laid out an entirely new theoretical model, a model that just so happened to perfectly explain all the contradictory data points from Evelyn's bungled presentation. The room erupted in applause. Everyone understood. The true genius behind the project was Julian Croft. Evelyn was just someone who had been standing on my shoulders to pick the fruit, and I had just kicked the ladder out from under her. As I stepped off the stage, Zoe was there waiting with a bottle of water. Julian, you were incredible, she said, her eyes shining. I took a sip of water, feeling the envious and admiring glances from around the room. I had to admit it felt good. 5 that night, after the conference, I wasted no time. Back in our hotel room, Zoe watched me with a hint of concern. Julian, after what you did today, you don't think Evelyn will do something crazy, do you? I stroked her hair to soothe her. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. I opened my laptop, pulled up my email, and began composing a meticulously worded message. To the editorial board, Nature Communications CC, the Academic Integrity Committee of Northwood University, Dean of the College of Sciences, head of the Croft Research Group subject, urgent request for retraction regarding questions of data integrity and conclusion validity from manuscript #XXXXX. In the body of the email, I, as the second author of the paper, made a formal declaration. It has come to my attention that I am unable to reproduce certain core experimental results provided by the first author, Dr. Evelyn Reed. Furthermore, a review of her original records reveals multiple inconsistencies that call the veracity of the data into question. In the interest of maintaining rigorous academic standards, I formally request the retraction of this manuscript and ask that the journal and the university's academic committee launch an investigation to uphold scholarly integrity. As an attachment, I included screenshots of several sets of raw data I had saved independently, data that directly contradicted the paper's final conclusions. It was more than enough to prove that the paper's core findings were built on data that had been optimized, if not entirely fabricated. This email was a bomb. The moment I hit send, I knew the war had officially begun. As expected, less than 30 minutes later, my phone started ringing off the hook. It was Evelyn. I didn't answer. Then came a text. Julian, are you insane? Why would you do this? You're trying to ruin me. A retraction? Do you have any idea what that will do to my career? My promotion to full professor depended on this. I'm begging you, Julian, please take back the email. I'll do anything you want. I was wrong. I was so wrong. The messages devolved from curses to questions to desperate pleas. I watched the notifications pop up on my screen, my face impassive, then selected delete all and blocked her new number. Finally, silence. Zoe came over with 2 ice-cold beers from the mini fridge and handed one to me, her eyes crinkling at the corners. To celebrate, Julian. I took the can and tapped it against hers, the sound crisp in the quiet room. No, I said, this is to celebrate the strategic brilliance of Mrs. Croft. If it hadn't been for her show-stopping performance at the conference, which had completely rattled Evelyn, my counterattack wouldn't have gone so smoothly. She blinked, then her smile grew even wider. In that case, Mr. Croft, may I request to lead the charge in all of your future academic battles? Permission granted. We smiled at each other and drank our beers. Outside the window, the lights of Chicago glittered, but in my world, the only thing that shone was her smile. The next day, the academic community was in an uproar. A paper in a top-tier journal, on the verge of publication, being flagged for data fraud by its own co-author. It was a massive scandal. The university's Academic Integrity Committee immediately formed an investigative panel. Evelyn was suspended from all teaching and research duties pending the outcome. Her application for promotion was, of course, put on indefinite hold. She tried to contact me, only to find herself blocked on every platform. She went to our mentor, begging him to intervene. Our mentor was an old-school professor whom I respected immensely, a man of unwavering integrity who despised academic misconduct. After reviewing the evidence I had attached to my email, he had only one thing to say to her. Evelyn, there is no room for stains in our world. You've made your bed. It was, for all intents and purposes, a death sentence for her academic career. The investigative committee gave Evelyn and Caleb a deadline, 1 week to independently replicate the key experiments from the paper and provide the complete, original data logs for every step. This was an impossible task. Those core experiments had been conducted by me, and me alone, in my designated clean room. Evelyn wouldn't even know the detailed protocols, let alone be able to replicate them. And the raw data? The real raw data was on my encrypted flash drive. All they had were the polished, cherry-picked charts I had given her. I knew they would try to fake the data. I was counting on it. The experimental design included a subtle validation step, a secret signature only I knew about. Any fabricated data would be immediately exposed by that single, hidden control. For the next few days, Evelyn and Caleb locked themselves in the lab, working around the clock. I heard about their miserable state from colleagues. They reportedly got into a screaming match over a single data parameter, nearly coming to blows. Caleb accused Evelyn of pushing him to optimize the data in the first place. Evelyn, in turn, screamed that he was a useless failure who couldn't even fake a dataset properly. Their so-called love affair crumbled under the immense pressure. A spectacular implosion was their only possible fate. One afternoon, while I was waiting for someone at a campus coffee shop, I ran into Caleb. He had lost a lot of weight, his eyes were sunken, and he was unshaven. He looked haggard and utterly defeated. He spotted me, froze for a second, then marched straight to my table. You must be enjoying this, Julian, he spat, his voice laced with venom. I took a sip of my coffee, not bothering to look at him. You destroyed Dr. Reed, and you destroyed me. He slammed his fist on the table, splashing coffee onto the saucer. The university is expelling me. My future. You've ruined everything. I finally set my cup down and wiped my hand with a napkin. Your future. I looked up, my eyes cold. The moment you crawled into your professor's bed, the moment you helped her tamper with data that wasn't yours, you should have known. Your bright future was already over. You destroyed it yourself. My words were a knife, twisting in his deepest wound. He turned ghostly pale, his lips trembling, unable to form a response. One more thing, I said, standing up to look down on him. I warned Evelyn a long time ago that you were a time bomb. Too bad she didn't listen. I left him there, swaying on his feet. He would never know the truth. Over a year ago, I had accidentally discovered that he was using his position as a lab assistant to embezzle funds by reselling lab supplies. I had given the evidence to Evelyn, warning her that the kid was trouble and couldn't be trusted. And what had she said? Julian, you're just jealous because he's young and energetic, not dull like you. His family doesn't have money. If he's selling a few supplies to get by, Why do you have to be so petty? She didn't just ignore it. She started favoring him even more. Now, the bomb she had personally planted was about to detonate. And I was holding the fuse. 7 While Evelyn and Caleb were being hammered by the investigation for data fabrication, another, bigger story was breaking across the entire scientific community. Cell, the most prestigious journal in the world, published a groundbreaking paper as its cover story. The corresponding author and the first author shared the same name, Julian Croft. The paper's title was a direct hit, a new paradigm for the structural function of protein XXX, a correction and transcendence of a flawed predecessor model. That flawed predecessor model was, of course, the very same paper I had just retracted. In my new article, not only did I present a new, perfect theoretical model that resolved all the previous inconsistencies, but I also mercilessly used the retracted paper as a case study in failure, dedicating 2 full pages to a systematic and brutal teardown of its methodology. With irrefutable data and logic, I proved that the previous model was, from its very foundation, wrong. Everyone got the message. This wasn't a correction. It was a declaration of war. It was me announcing to the world that I, Julian Croft, was the sole intellectual force behind that research. Evelyn was nothing more than a thief who had stolen a half-finished product and had the audacity to call it her own. The paper sent shockwaves through the bioscience world. My name shot to the top of research news sites, both domestic and international. Over a dozen of the world's top research institutions, including the Max Planck Institute I had been in contact with, sent me formal job offers, each more lucrative than the last. My mentor called me, his voice shaking with excitement. Julian, you did it. This Cell paper is a masterpiece, an absolute triumph for our department. You are a true scientist. I always knew I was right about you. Meanwhile, in Zoe's stream, she spoke to her audience with a mysterious smile. Hey everyone, my husband has some big news today. If you're interested, you might want to check out what's happening in the world of bioscience. I can't say too much, but let's just call it the return of a king. Her fans were confused but intrigued, and they flooded various platforms to figure out what she was talking about. Hashtag dream couple, hashtag scientist and his streamer wife. The hashtag started trending on Twitter for no apparent reason. Countless people flocked to my long-dormant profile to see who this man was that a top streamer was calling her husband. What they found was my newly pinned tweet, a link to my Cell paper. The comments section exploded. Holy yes! I thought her husband was some rich CEO, not a freaking genius scientist. I looked up what Cell is. Let's just say if you publish in there once, you can basically do whatever you want in academia for the rest of your life. OMG, what is this pairing? Top-tier streamer and a top-tier scientist. I ship it so hard. Dude, look closer. This paper literally destroys his ex-girlfriend's career. This isn't just a dream couple. This is a revenge saga. Evelyn saw the paper from her hospital bed. The immense shock, combined with weeks of relentless stress, had caused her already high-risk pregnancy to fail. She stared at her phone, at the endless stream of praise and congratulations directed at me, and then considered her own dire situation. The world went black as she fainted. She finally understood. The parting gift I had offered her wasn't the Nature paper she thought would secure her promotion. It was this perfectly orchestrated, career-ending, soul-crushing academic masterpiece. At the university's final verdict came swiftly. An official document was posted on the school's website. Following an investigation, Dr. Evelyn Reed, an associate professor in the College of Life Sciences, has been found to have engaged in serious academic misconduct, including the alteration and fabrication of experimental data. These actions represent a severe breach of ethical standards. By decision of the Academic Integrity Committee and the University Board, Dr. Reed's employment is hereby terminated. Her status as a graduate advisor is revoked, and her name will be added to the National Database of Academic Dishonesty. Graduate student Caleb Vance has been found to be complicit in data falsification. He is hereby expelled from the university. The two announcements were like 2 resounding slaps, permanently ending both of their careers. Caleb's bright future had vanished. His parents drove in from out of state and made a scene outside the president's office, but it was useless. Blinded by rage and despair, Caleb directed all his hatred at Evelyn. He stormed into her hospital room, screaming at her. "It's all your fault. You ruined me. If you hadn't told me to change the data, none of this would have happened. You bitch. You destroyed my life." Evelyn was already weak. The confrontation caused her immense distress, followed by sharp, cramping pains. The room descended into chaos. By the time the nurses and doctors rushed in, she was lying in a pool of blood. The baby was gone. The 3-month-old fetus was gone. The proof of their love, that she had betrayed me to take responsibility for, was gone. The sight of the blood sent Caleb into a panic. "This has nothing to do with me," he yelled before fleeing the hospital. He was never seen again. Evelyn lay alone in the cold hospital bed. She had lost the child, her career, the love she thought was worth fighting for, and every ounce of her reputation. The celebrated goddess of research was now a pariah, a fraud, a complete and utter failure. Just then, her phone vibrated. It was a text from an unknown number. From me. The message was simple, just a single photo. In it, Zoe was wearing a white sundress, leaning against my shoulder as we smiled at each other on a beach at sunset. Beneath the photo was one line of text. "This is the life I always wanted. Hope you got everything you wish for." Evelyn stared at the photo, at the piercing happiness on our faces. And then she finally broke. Like a madwoman, she hurled the phone against the wall and, covering her face, let out a gut-wrenching, animalistic scream of pure despair. Did she get what she wished for? She threw me away for Caleb's supposed bright future, only to personally extinguish it. She was willing to sacrifice me to protect her own name and status, only to end up disgraced and with nothing. Perhaps this, then, was the most fitting punishment of all. 9 with the chaos of Evelyn behind us. My life with Zoe finally settled into a happy rhythm. I accepted an offer from a top university to head my own independent lab. Zoe, in turn, moved her streaming studio into our new house. Her career flourished. The scientist's wife title made her even more popular. Her fans were intensely curious about me, but Zoe guarded my privacy fiercely, never allowing my face to appear on camera. Yet, my presence was everywhere. When she would get tired from dancing during a stream, she'd take a break. A hand, masculine, with long fingers and wearing a wedding band identical to mine, would suddenly appear on screen, offering her a steaming mug. The chat would explode. "OMG, it's the husband's hand. Look at that hand. It can have its own career." Is the professor making sure Zoe stays hydrated? The cutest. Zoe would take the mug, sip from it, and smile sweetly at the camera. "Nope, you can't see him. My husband is mine, all mine." From off camera, my deep voice would drift in, tinged with mock exasperation. "If you're tired, take a real break. Don't throw your back out trying to hit your sub-goal." Zoe's face would instantly turn bright red. I know. Go back to winning your Nobel Prize and leave me alone," she'd retort, but the smile in her eyes was impossible to hide. The fans in her chat happily devoured every scrap of our interaction. Another time, she was in a stream battle with another creator and lost a game of truth or dare. The penalty: call the first person in her contact list and say, "I love you." The first contact in her phone was a Julian. Hundreds of thousands of people watched as she blushed, hesitated, and finally dialed my number. I was in the middle of reviewing a manuscript when I answered. "Hello." Zoe took a deep breath and whispered, so quietly it was almost inaudible, "Julian, I love you." The line was silent for 5 full seconds. Just as Zoe was about to die of embarrassment, my voice came through the speaker, thick with suppressed laughter. "Acknowledged, Mrs. Croft. Is the dare over now? Because if it is, I believe it's my turn to give you your reward." Zoe slammed the phone off. She waved frantically at the camera. "Okay, guys, that's it for tonight. Something urgent came up. I'll see you all tomorrow." She ended the stream in a flash, leaving behind a chat filled with question marks and comments like, "I think I know what the reward is." After that night, Zoe's viewership hit an all-time high, and my reputation as the doting Professor Croft was firmly cemented among her fanbase. Later, I found her burrowed under the covers, wrapped up like a burrito out of sheer embarrassment. She was ridiculous, and I adored her for it. I walked over and scooped her up, blankets and all, into my arms. "Mrs. Croft, You haven't claimed your reward yet." From inside her cocoon, her muffled protests were barely audible. Then once my new job was settled, I decided it was time for Zoe to meet my parents. This decision sent Zoe into a week-long anxiety spiral. She bought out nearly every item from online, what to gift your future in-laws guides, and modeled a new outfit for me every night, asking which one looked the most respectable and wifely. It was painful to see her so nervous. I pulled her into my arms to comfort her. "You don't need to do all this, silly. My parents already feel like they know you from your streams. They're secretly your biggest fans." "Really?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Really? My father is a retired history professor, and my mother is a well-known painter. They're both incredibly open-minded. They already knew the whole story with Evelyn and our whirlwind marriage. My mom had even created a Twitch account to secretly subscribe and donate to Zoe's channel. As she put it, that girl has a light in her eyes. You can just tell she's a good soul." The moment we walked through the door, my mom grabbed Zoe's hands, her face beaming. "Oh, Zoe, you're even more beautiful in person. Look at the skin, this face. Just radiant." My dad put down his newspaper and smiled warmly at her. "Zoe, welcome home. Streaming must be hard work. Does anyone give you a hard time online? You just tell me, and I'll have their accounts banned." Zoe, overwhelmed by their enthusiasm, just blushed and kept repeating, "It's so nice to meet you." At the dinner table, my mom's favoritism was on full display. She kept piling food onto Zoe's plate, completely ignoring me as if I were the one marrying into the family. "Zoe, eat more, you're too thin. This pot roast is my specialty. You have to try it." I looked at my own plate, holding nothing but a lonely scoop of rice, and feigned jealousy. "Mom, am I not your biological son?" She shot me a look and placed the largest piece of short rib on Zoe's plate. "You've got some nerve. You managed to convince this wonderful girl to marry you. The least we could do is treat her right. What if she decides to leave you?" Her comment made the whole table laugh. Zoe finally relaxed, falling into an easy conversation with my mom about skincare and fashion. The atmosphere was perfect. That evening, my mom pulled me aside and pressed a heavy, antique-looking box into my hand. Inside was a vintage sapphire ring. "Give this to Zoe when the time is right," she said. "It was your grandmother's. Consider her officially part of the family." When I went back to our room, Zoe was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking worried again. "Julian, do your parents think I'm not good enough for you? Because of my job?" I didn't say a word. I walked over, knelt down in front of her, and took her hand. I slid the beautiful, cool ring on her finger. It was a perfect fit. Zoe stared at it, speechless. "Is this?" "It's from my mother," I said, looking up at her. "It's from our family." "You silly girl. You never have to be good enough for anyone, because you deserve the absolute best of everything in this world." Zoe's eyes instantly filled with tears. She looked from the ring on her hand to my face, and big, fat tears of pure joy began to fall. She threw her arms around my neck and held on tight. In that moment, I knew that the last lingering traces of her insecurity had vanished for good. I owed Zoe a wedding. A real one. A magnificent celebration worthy of her. I booked out an entire island resort in Bali and invited all our friends and family. On the wedding day, Zoe wore a custom couture gown, looking like a princess straight out of fairy tale. She walked down the flower-strewn aisle on her father's arm, her eyes locked on mine. During the exchange of vows, with everyone as my witness, I looked into her eyes and spoke from the heart. "Zoe Sullivan, thank you. Thank you for being the light that crashed into my life when it was at its darkest and most chaotic. You came in without any hesitation. You made me realize that all the pain I thought I was feeling was just clearing a path for me to find you. I used to think my world was nothing but cold labs and sterile data. You showed me that my world could be pink, that it could be a rainbow. So thank you, my Mrs. Croft. From this day forward, my world will only have spring and summer, never fall or winter again." Then I added one more thing, my voice so soft only she could hear. "You know, I noticed you back in college. In the library. You were that girl who always sat in the corner, sneaking glances at me, the one who dropped a whole stack of books. I helped you pick them up once. Do you remember?" Zoe's eyes went wide. She had always thought her crush was a one-sided secret. She never imagined that it had been, all along, a mutual, unspoken connection. Her composure broke completely. She started sobbing, tears of shock and happiness ruining her perfect makeup. In the audience, many of her mutual friends who had once witnessed my perfect relationship with Evelyn now watched with expressions of profound understanding. They had seen my rebirth, and they had all heard about Evelyn's fall from grace. Life's paths were strange and unpredictable. Zoe's streaming platform broadcasted the entire wedding live. The donations and gifts broke every record in the company's history. After the wedding, Zoe announced that all the proceeds would be used to establish the Croft Sullivan Foundation for Young Scientists, a fund dedicated to supporting talented researchers from low-income backgrounds. The decision elevated the entire event. My girl wasn't just beautiful. She had a kind, generous, and brilliant heart. Finally, amid the cheers and blessings of our guests, I lifted her veil under the setting sun and kissed her deeply. My girl, my wife, my salvation. I would spend the rest of my life protecting her. 1 year later, building on my cell paper, my lab had a major breakthrough, developing a prototype for a new type of targeted cancer therapy. The achievement earned me that year's Lasker Award, the most prestigious prize in biomedical research after the Nobel. I became the youngest recipient in the country's history. Zoe, meanwhile, was no longer content with just being a streamer. Using her fame and capital, she founded her own media company, becoming a sharp-eyed executive producer and financing several hit web series. We had both become better, stronger versions of ourselves. One quiet evening, we were on the terrace of our villa, watching the stars, just as we often did. Zoe was curled up against me, and I could feel the gentle curve of her belly. Our baby was 4 months along. She suddenly looked up at me, her eyes sparkling with playful mischief. Julian, the baby kicked me today. You think he knows that you're better than every other man in the world? She was playfully mimicking Caleb's idiotic, arrogant line from a lifetime ago. I chuckled and leaned down to kiss her forehead. Then I bent lower, resting my ear gently against her stomach, pretending to listen intently. After a few seconds, I looked up at her with a very serious expression. No, I said. He's saying his mom is the best mom in the whole world. Zoe stared at me for a second, then burst into a fit of giggles, collapsing against me. I held her close, gazing at the city lights in the distance and the vast, starry sky above. My heart was full of a deep, quiet contentment. I pulled out my phone, habitually swiping through the news alerts. The headline of a local news story caught my eye. Former beauty professor found homeless, suffering from mental breakdown. The accompanying photo was of a disheveled woman with matted hair and ragged clothes. It was unmistakably Evelyn. Without a change in my expression, I swiped the notification away, dismissing it.